Rhabdoviruses are bullet-shaped enveloped viruses with single-stranded negative sense RNA. These rhabdoviruses can cause infection among mammals, reptiles, birds, insects and plants. Rhabdoviruses infecting mammals belongs to two genera, namely vesiculovirus genera, which causes vesicular stomatitis and other related viruses. It also other genera is Lyssavirus containing rabies virus and related viruses. Coming on to the morphology of rabies virus, they are bullet shaped, otherwise called as rod shaped, with one end rounded or conical and the other end is planar or concave. There is an outer lipoprotein envelope with glycoprotein G spikes all around. These spikes are absent at the planar end of the virion. Beneath the lipoprotein envelope is the membrane or matrix M layer. This matrix layer is invaginated at the planar end, and in some cases it may project outwards like a bleb. The nucleoprotein or nucleocapsid is helically arranged ribonucleoprotein with a unsegmented linear negative sense RNA. The nucleocapsid also consists of RNA dependent RNA transcriptase and some structural proteins. Coming on to the resistance pattern of the rhabdoviruses, they are sensitive to ethanol, iodine, quaternary ammonium compounds, soaps, detergents, lipid solvents like ether, chloroform and acetone. These rhabdoviruses are inactivated by uvirase, phenol, formalin, beta-propiolactone. So morphologically they are bullet shaped with one end is conical and other end is concave. Outer there is a lipoprotein membrane with glycoprotein spikes. These spikes are absent at the planar or concave end. Below the lipoprotein membrane is a lipoprotein layer is a membrane or matrix M layer. This matrix layer is invaginated at the planar end. In some at the planar end it may project outwards to form a bleb. The nucleocapsid consists of a negative sense RNA, RNA dependent RNA transcriptase and some structural proteins. So that is the morphology. Coming on to the resistance, they are sensitive to ethanol, iodine, quaternary ammonium compounds, soaps, detergents and other lipid solvents like ether, chloroform and acetone. They are also inactivated by uvirase, phenols, formalin and beta-propiolactone. Then what is the antigenicity of the rhabdoviruses? Antigenically, there is a surface glycoprotein G. This glycoprotein G spikes is very much important in the pathogenesis, virulence and immunity of these rhabdoviruses. These produce serotype specific antibodies. So this helps us to provide or to produce a safe and effective subunit vaccine. It is a serotype specific. Also these spikes produces what is called as, or these spikes are having what is called as heme agglutinating activity. That is, these agglutinate goose RBC at a temperature of 0 to 4 degrees centigrade. So these are having heme agglutinating properties, glycoprotein spikes. So after infection or after immunization, demonstration of production of antibodies to these glycoprotein spikes can be assessed or assayed by doing what is called as heme agglutination inhibition test. So if it is successful, if there is a successful heme agglutination inhibition, then we are sure that the antibodies are formed or produced. That is, we have given vaccination using spikes which are having heme agglutinating property. So these antigens induces antibodies. So antibodies inhibits heme agglutination. Assessment of heme agglutination inhibition helps us the effectiveness of immunization. Also, this nucleocapsid protein induces complement fixing antibodies. These complement fixing antibodies are not protective value, but it helps for the immunodiagnosis. The complement fixating antibodies helps for the immunodiagnosis of rabies infection by doing what is called as immunofluorescence test. Whereas the serotype specific glycoprotein spikes induces antibodies which are protective in nature. So coming on to the host range and growth characteristics of rhabdoviruses. We know that these rhabdoviruses are divided into vesicular viruses and lyssaviruses. This lyssavirus contains the rabies virus and other viruses that cause rabies among mammals. So this rabies virus can cause infection among majority of the mammals. However, their susceptibility to rabies infection is variable. For example, cats, cattle, foxes are highly susceptible to rabies infection, whereas something like fowl are usually resistant, though they are susceptible, a little bit resistant to the rabies infection. Human and dogs occupy an intermediate position. So all mammals, though, are susceptible to rabies infection. Animals like cattle, cats are highly susceptible. Fowl are resistant to rabies infection, whereas human and dogs occupy an intermediate position. Then we had learned about two terms, namely what is called as a fixed virus and what is called as a street virus. A street virus is the virus that has been isolated from natural human or animal infection. So if a virus is, rabies virus is isolated directly from either human infection or from animal infection, it is called as a street virus. This virus can produce experimentally fatal encephalitis after a long and variable incubation period. This incubation period may be 1 week to 12 weeks. It is highly variable and it is very long. And this street virus, as it produces infection among human and animals naturally, this can produce what is called as inclusion bodies, named as Negri bodies. The Negri bodies are intracytoplasmic inclusion bodies that can be demonstrated in the brain of animals dying because of street virus infection. Then what is fixed virus? This street virus, after serial intracerebral passages in the rabbits, the virus can undergo certain changes. So a street virus which after processing serially intracellularly can acquire some new characteristics. So such a virus which is produced newly is called as a fixed virus. This virus also can produce fatal encephalitis among experimental animal, but here the incubation period is very short and it is very fixed, namely 6 to 7 days. And this fixed virus will not produce Negri bodies in the brain, and this fixed virus is usually used for the vaccine production. So that is about the animal susceptibility to rabies infection. So all animals are affected. There is some variability. An animal which the rabies virus which produces natural infection is called as a street virus. It produces fatal encephalitis after a variable and prolonged incubation period from 1 to 12 weeks of time. It produces Negri bodies, that is inclusion bodies. The fixed virus resulted from street virus after serial passages intracerebral in the rabbit. Here the street virus undergoes certain changes in its morphological appearance and morphological properties and the changes in the glycoprotein spikes and becomes fixed virus. And this fixed virus will also produces fatal encephalitis, but here the incubation period is short and constant and it is usually 6 to 7 days. This will not produce Negri bodies. Then this fixed virus is usually used for the production of vaccines. Then comes the development of rabies virus among chick embryos. The rabies virus can grow in the chick embryos. Usually we know that embryonic eggs will be having amniotic cavity, allantoic cavity, chorioallantoic membrane and yolk sac. This rabies virus usually develops in the yolk sac of either chick embryo or duck embryonic egg. So serial passage in the chick embryo has resulted in the development of what is called as attenuated strain of rabies virus, and it is usually used for the vaccine production. So it is also called as Flurry strain of rabies vaccine strain. Then what is called as tissue culture techniques. You know that these viruses will also grow in the tissue cultures. Both street virus will grow and the fixed virus can grow. The fixed virus adapted for growth in human diploid cells or chick embryo cells or vero cell cultures are used for the production of vaccines. So this also grow in the chick embryos, so that is used for the development of vaccine. The example is the Flurry vaccine, and it also grows in the tissue cultures, and in the tissue culture it can grow in the human diploid cells or chick embryo and vero cell cultures, and this is also used for the production of vaccines. So rabies is a rhabdoviral disease transmitted to human or animals by the bite of mad dogs. The disease in human is also called as hydrophobia. This hydrophobia term is not used for animals because only human will exhibit fear of water, but that means they are thirsty but they cannot drink water because of pharyngeal or laryngeal muscles spasm. So even at the sight of water they become very anxious and hydrophobic. So it is also called as hydrophobia. These symptoms or such property is not seen among animals. Then what is the pathogenesis of rabies? The infection usually caused by bite of the rabid animal or rabid dog, because the virus is usually present in the saliva of animals. However, you can have studies have shown that rabies can also be transmitted either by licks of animals or aerosols produced by animals, and also by transplantation of cornea or other virus infected tissues. So not only from the bite, but because of saliva lickings or from the aerosols or transplantation, usually by corneal transplantation, these rabies can occur among human. Then what is the pathogenesis of this rabies infection? Following the bite, what happens? This virus got stuck either in the muscles or tissues. So in the muscles and tissues, it stays for 48 to 72 hours and goes on multiplying. Once it multiplies, it penetrates the nervous tissue or nerve endings, and from the nerve endings via the axons it reaches the spinal cord and then the brain. That is, it exhibits a centripetal distribution extension from the periphery to the center, from the site of bite via nerve axons to the spinal cord. In the spinal cord, mainly posterior horns are affected, and from there it reaches the brain. Again in the brain it shows multiplication. So the number of viruses among the brain increases, and from the brain again via the peripheral nerves it reaches the different parts of the body. It reaches especially to the saliva and reaches in each and every part of the body, because this can be secreted even in the urine and also in the breast milk. It also reaches the facial skin and other tissues. So bite followed by multiplication followed by entry into axons of the peripheral nerves, reaches the central nervous system, which includes spinal cord and the brain. Multiplication, further multiplication there, reaches or enters into the axons of the nerves, peripheral nerves, and got distributed into different parts of the body, especially in the saliva, the cornea and facial skin. Even in the urine and also milk it can be extracted. The incubation period is usually 1 to 3 months, but it is variable. It can be variable to 7 days to 3 years. The reason is the time taken for the virus to travel from the periphery to the center and from center to the periphery. The clinical course of the disease includes prodromal symptoms, acute phase, coma and death. So what are the prodromal symptoms of rabies? Include fever, headache, malaise, fatigue, agitation, anxiety. So if the history of any bite by rabid animal and prodromal symptoms like fever, headache, malaise, fatigue, agitation, anxiety, you must be very, very careful to suspect rabies. These symptoms will last for 2 to 4 days, and this is followed by acute phase. And this acute phase is very much characterized by neurological hyperactivity. The patient exhibits bizarre behavior. There may be seizures which may be spontaneous or precipitated by some external stimuli, like even a small sound, or by switching on the light also it may initiates behavior or seizures. Most importantly, these patients exhibit hydrophobia. As you know that it is because of painful spasm of the pharynx and larynx at the site of liquids, which includes water. So it is called as hydrophobia. But they are normal and they can eat solids normally. This acute phase is usually followed by coma, and this lasts for in some people it may stay only for a few hours, but in some it may go for days. And this coma phase is usually followed by death, and usually the death occurs within 1 to 6 days of time from the acute phase to death, and it is usually because of respiratory complications or other complications. This is the scenario among human. Then what is the scenario of clinical features among the rabid animals? Here also the incubation period is usually 3 to 6 weeks of time, and here there are also initial prodromal symptoms followed by CNS symptoms or neurological symptoms. The initial prodromal symptoms are alertness, that is, dogs exhibit more alertness, they exhibit troubled air, if they take in inhale air also they feel difficulty, they exhibit restlessness, snapping at imaginary objects, licks at the site of the bite, and these prodromal symptoms usually last for 2 to 3 days. So constant licking of a particular site, snapping at imaginary objects, and restlessness are usually the prodromal symptoms. This is followed by development of neurological symptoms. Some dogs exhibit two types of neurological symptoms. Some after prodromal symptoms may develop furious type of rabies, or some may develop into dumb type of rabies. So what is furious rabies? This is very more common, very much common. Here, after the prodromal symptoms, the dogs run amok and they bite either animals or human without any provocation. They continue, and it is indiscriminately they bite people. Then during this period there may be dropping of the lower jaw with continuous drooling of the saliva from the mouth. This is followed by convulsions and death of the dog. The dumb rabies is otherwise called as a paralytic form. It is not that much common compared to furious rabies. Here also, after prodromal symptoms, the animal keeps quiet, huddled, and at one place. It is unable to feed, and it is not interested or does not show any interest in the surrounding. However, any attempts to feed the dog, it becomes furious and bites the people. So among the dogs, 60% of the virus is shed in the saliva, and usually the animal dies within 3 to 5 days of time. That's why any history of dog bite, we have to observe the dog for 10 days, because usually the dog dies within 3 to 5 days time. Whether it is dog or human, the main organ of involvement is the brain and the spinal cord. You are more interested in the histopathological examination, or this post-mortem examination. Here the brain shows vascular congestion and perivascular infiltration with cerebral edema. In the brain, demyelination of the white matter is very much common. In the spinal cord, the posterior horns are severely involved. Whether it is the brain or the spinal cord, usually the brain, it exhibits the most important diagnostic or feature called as intracytoplasmic inclusion body, named as Negri body. Even in the brain, it is more common in the cerebellum and the hippocampus. What are the Negri bodies? Negri bodies are intracytoplasmic inclusion bodies, and they are nothing but fine fibrillar matrix admixed with rabies virus particles. Coming on to the lab diagnosis of rabies, it is to be done both in human and also in animals. So let us do how it will be done in humans. It consists of two methods. One is the ante-mortem diagnosis, and second one is the post-mortem. That is, here whether it is ante-mortem or post-mortem, the aim is whether the person has infected with rabies virus or not. So coming on to the ante-mortem diagnosis, it is by demonstration of rabies viral antigen by direct immunofluorescence test using monoclonal antibodies. These monoclonal antibodies are fluorescent tagged, so that by using immunofluorescence test we can identify the presence of rabies antigen. So what is the sample? The sample is for antemortem diagnosis. It should be corneal scrapings or facial skin biopsy. Similarly, we can diagnose it postmortemly by demonstrating Negri bodies in the brain. Then what the next one is isolation of virus. This could be done by injecting the sample, whether it is a brain biopsy sample or saliva. Brain is postmortem, or antemortem is saliva or CSF, are to be injected into the mice, and the mice should be observed. So where to be injected? It should be injected intracerebrally, and later observe the mice for the signs of illness, or after the death of the mice you examine the brain for the presence of Negri bodies. Next comes the tissue culture sample. All the samples can be done, and that is the CSF sample, brain sample or salivary sample should be taken, and it should be subjected for tissue culture. Tissue culture by doing human diploid cell culture or primary virial cell cultures or chick embryo cultures, we can demonstrate the development or presence of the virus. That is about tissue cultures. So apart from that, these viral antibodies will appear in the CSF only after infection, not by vaccination. So demonstration of high titers of antibodies in the CSF by immunological methods, we can say that the patient is suffering or not suffering from the rabies. So demonstration of high titers of CSF rabies antibodies in the CSF indicates that the patient is suffering from rabies, because with immunization these antibodies are not demonstrated in the CSF. Next, as we know that it is having a RNA reverse transcriptase enzyme, RT-PCR can be used for the demonstration of RNA reverse transcriptase enzyme. So these are the diagnostic methods, that is viral isolation of the viral antigen by demonstrating antigen in the facial biopsy sample or corneal scrapings by using monoclonal antibodies which are tagged with a fluorescent stain, or isolation of the virus by injecting into the intracerebrally into the mice and observing the mice for its clinical signs, or by demonstrating the development of the virus in tissue cultures like human diploid cell culture or primary virial cell culture or chick embryo cultures, or demonstration of high antibodies in the CSF is one method, or demonstration of RNA reverse transcriptase by PCR. So these are about the human rabies. Similar methods are observed for the demonstration of the virus in the animals. What are they? Observe the animal for 10 days. Usually the virus will be shed in the saliva 3 to 4 days before the onset of symptoms, and 5 to 6 days after the onset of symptoms the animal, usually the dog, will die. So close observation of the dog for 10 days indicates that the dog is rabid or not. That is one of the thing we can observe. Similarly, you can observe post-mortem sample should be taken if the animal is dead, or if the animal is dead, post-mortem examination should be done by taking the brain sample, that is usually mainly hippocampus and cerebellum, and you can demonstrate the Negri bodies. Apart from that, salivary glands, the animal salivary glands is taken and it is treated with the, so automatic salivary glands indicates that there may be antigens in it. So if it is treated with the monoclonal antibodies tagged with the fluorescent, we can demonstrate by immunofluorescence we can demonstrate the presence of antigens. And so as above, even in animals also we can use the biological test by intracerebrally inoculating into the mice. So whether it is human or animal, the most important thing is demonstration of the antigen by immunofluorescence methods, animal inoculation demonstration in the mice, or if it is as a post-mortem diagnosis, demonstration of the Negri bodies in the brain. Important is the sample, important sample is hippocampus or cerebellum. So that is about the diagnosis. Once the diagnosis is done, we have to go for prophylaxis. In the prophylaxis, there is two methods. One is pre-exposure prophylaxis and post-exposure prophylaxis. So there are actually, considering the pre-exposure exposure prophylaxis, here there is one tricky situation. To prevent rabies, there are two types of vaccines. One is neural vaccine and the other one is the non-neural vaccine. The neural vaccine are a little bit dangerous because they are more less immunogenic. We can't completely cure the vaccine from the antigens, and they may be encephalogenic, that is, they may produce encephalitis. So this pre-exposure prophylaxis using neural vaccine is usually should not be done unless otherwise the persons are on high risk zone, that is, for the veterinarians you can give it, or those who are handling the dogs you can give it. However, there is development what is called as non-neural vaccines. This non-neural vaccine can be given as a pre-exposure prophylaxis also. So what is the specific so let us know what is the specific line of treatment for this rabies infection. First and foremost is the local treatment. Once there is a suspicion of when the patient says that he was bitten by a dog, the local treatment is the most important step we have to follow. Prompt cauterization of the wound. So automatically application of heat on that place discharges the virus. First point. Clean the wound with soap and water. Automatically soap is a detergent. The virus will be destroyed. Apply locally some alcohol, iodine or cetavolin. So this also is virucidal in nature. And so if the wound is too much, local administration of anti-rabies treatment, anti-rabies serum is essential. So local treatment includes cauterization, cleaning with soap and water, application of alcohol and cetavolin iodine, and application of anti-rabies serum locally. And if the wound is bigger, don't do suture immediately. You can postpone the application of suture for a later time. Then coming on to the vaccines, we know that there are two types of vaccines, namely neural vaccine and non-neural vaccine. So in detail about neural vaccine we will be learning. Here whatever the vaccine we will be using, we know that there are two types of viruses. One is the street virus and other is the fixed virus or fixed rabies virus. For any vaccine preparation we will be using fixed rabies virus. So this neural vaccine is also two types, namely one is simple vaccine and the other one is the beta propiolactin vaccine, and the other also there is animal vaccine called as infant brain vaccine. So let us know in detail about each of them. So whatever the situation, this neural vaccine always consists of a nervous tissue, that is brain, which is infected with the fixed rabies virus and it has been inactivated. So this is the inactive. So it should be having a brain tissue and it should be infected with the fixed rabies virus, which is and should be inactivated. Coming on to the simple vaccine. Here we will be using the 5% suspension of sheep brain. 5%, a simple sheep, remember like that. In the simple vaccine, 5% suspension of sheep brain is infected with fixed virus, and so it is infected with the fixed virus and it is later inactivated at 37 degrees centigrade with phenol. Should be totally inactivated at 37 degrees centigrade with phenol, leaving no residual virus. Simple vaccine, sheep brain is used and it is 5% and it is infected with fixed rabies virus. Then it should be inactivated at 37 degrees centigrade with phenol, such that there will be no residual virus. This is a little bit less immunogenic or less antigenic, and also it needs more dose and duration. Next is the beta propiolactin vaccine. Here the same sheep brain is used, but here the inactivation, instead of phenol, here inactivation will be done with BPL, beta propiolactin. So comparing with the simple vaccine, here this BPL vaccine is more antigenic and even smaller doses are sufficient. Next comes though it is not used in India, next comes the infant brain vaccine. So whatever the situation, you know that in the brain there is myelin sheath. So presence of myelin sheath occurs soon. Will not myelin sheath will develop only after some time after birth. So presence of myelin sheath is the reason for the development of encephalitis. So if in newborn it is usually absent, and if you select a newborn non-myelinated neural tissue, and it can be used for vaccine production. So here it is, what we have minimized here is encephalitis, because encephalitis occurs due to presence of myelin sheath. Myelin sheath is usually absent in the newborn. So if a newborn sheep is taken, and if its brain is infected with the fixed virus, there is less chances for encephalitis. So but however, in India it is this is not being practiced. So as you know that these neural vaccines are less immunogenic, contain little bit of virus, so it may be dangerous, or they may produce encephalitis. Apart from that, what is the dose of neural vaccine and what is the duration of treatment with neural vaccines? This depends upon the nature of wound. So depending upon the nature of the wound, we will be giving the dose and duration of treatment. So certainly to know in detail about it, all the wounds produced by animals have been classified into three types: class 1, class 2, class 3. The class 1 are the low risk wounds to the patient. Here there may be usually licks or bites which does not damage the epidermis of the skin, and it usually involves the lower limb. It is class 1 low risk. Class 2 is a moderate risk one. Here there are licks but the licks are on the fingers or on the lower limb, but here the skin is abraded. A abraded skin, if it is licked on the abraded or cracked skin, it is considered as class 2 or moderate risk. Class 3 is the high risk. Here bites and licks will be present over the head and neck. So here the Y classification means, we know that in the pathogenesis, from the bite side, this virus has to travel to the spinal cord and brain, and again it has to travel peripherally. So this, if it is a bite is in the lower limb, the travel time is more, and automatically the incubation period will be more. If it is on the face and neck, the incubation period is less and the travel time is also less. So class 3 are considered as high risk. So we will be in India we will be practicing simple vaccine and BPL vaccine. So what is the dose of simple vaccine? The simple vaccine in class 1 injuries, it should be given 2 ml for 7 days. For class 2 it is 5 ml for 14 days. For class 3 it is 10 ml for 14 days. Simple vaccine in class 1 wounds should be given 2 ml for 7 days. Class 2 5 ml for 14 days. Class 3 10 ml for 14 days. Coming up to the BPL, we know that it is more immunogenic and less dose is sufficient. So for class 1 we have to give 2 ml for 7 days. For class 2 injuries we have to give 3 ml for 10 days, and for class 3 it is 5 ml for 10 days. To repeat, BPL, beta propiolactone vaccine, for class 1 it should be given 2 ml for 7 days, 3 ml for 10 days for class 2 injuries, and for class 3 5 ml for 10 days. So whatever this thing, this neural vaccine gives protection only for 6 months. So pre-exposure prophylaxis, even if you are given, it gives protection only for 6 months. So after 6 months we have to again repeat the course of vaccination. That is one of the biggest problem, and it should be given subcutaneously on the anterior abdominal wall. Should be given subcutaneously on the anterior abdominal wall. But most important thing to remember is it produces local reactions like itching and everything, erythema, induration, pain. Apart from that, it may produce encephalitis, and which may endanger the life. Coming on to the non-neural vaccines, it is of three types, namely one is egg vaccines, second is tissue culture vaccine, and third is the subunit vaccine. So what are egg vaccines? For egg vaccines, it could be prepared by using duck eggs or live attenuated chick embryos. So this duck egg vaccine is prepared by using fixed virus adapted for growth in the duck's eggs and inactivated with beta-propiolactin. So though it is safe, it is also comparatively safe with neurogenic vaccine. It is poorly immunogenic and it is of not much useful compared to other tissue culture vaccines. Next one is the live attenuated chick embryo vaccine. Here also we will be using the fluorifixate rabies virus for the production of vaccine. It is also of two types, namely low egg passage, otherwise called as LEP vaccine. Here what we will be doing now, that will be we have learnt earlier that at the time of culture, animal susceptibility and range of animals, will be knowing that serial propagation in chick embryos will result in the attenuation of the vaccine, and the strain by which it is attenuated is called as Flurry strain. So serial passage in the yolk sac makes the fixate rabies virus into attenuated. So it is called as a Flurry strain. And low egg passage means serial passage for 40 to 50 times is called as a low egg passage, and it is usually used for the immunization of dogs. Similarly, there is what is called as high egg passage. Here serial passage will be done for up to 180 times, and it is usually used for the vaccination of cats and cattle. That is about egg vaccines, where we will be using duck eggs or low attenuated chick embryos. Next comes the tissue culture. In the tissue culture, you can use human diploid cell culture or primary cell culture or continuous cell culture. So coming on to the human diploid cell culture, where we can use WI38 cell strains. Here, after the fixed rabies virus is allowed to grow in the WI38, and it is here also it should be inactivated with the BPL, beta-propiolactin. It is highly antigenic and with less side effects. In primary cell culture, we will be using the chick embryo cell culture. Here it is called as PCEC, primary chick embryo cell culture, and the other one is human diploid cell culture, is also called as HDC. Next comes the continuous cell culture, wherein we will be using the vero cell line culture for the production of vaccine, and it is called as PVC, purified vero cell culture vaccine. So all these vaccines which are used by tissue culture, human diploid cell culture or primary chick embryo cell culture or purified vero cell culture, are all equally immunogenic, and all of them are safe with or without any side effects. Next comes the subunit vaccine. This subunit vaccine is under trials only. You know that the enveloped it is enveloped virus, and there are glycoprotein G spikes which are antigenic in nature. So recombinant technology has been used and wherein GPG spikes are being used for the production of vaccine. It is under trials and it is not much studied yet. So you have to wait for its production. Then how will you use this vaccine? Pre-exposure or post-exposure? Here also post-exposure means you have to observe the dog for 10 days, as usually we know that, because 3 to 4 days when the virus is present in the saliva without any symptoms, and after that 5 to 6 days the dog develops symptoms and it will die. So observation of the dog for 10 days is the most important step. And for pre-exposure prophylaxis, it should be given for high-risk individuals, that is like veterinary doctors, those who work with animals or dogs like that. Here usually we will be giving tissue cultures, that is human diploid cell vaccine, human diploid cell culture, or primary embryo cell cultures, or vero cell cultures. This will be given for prophylaxis, pre-exposure prophylaxis, in 3 doses, namely on the day 0 day, 7th day, or 21 days, or they can use it on 0 day, 28 days, or after on 56th day. That is, pre-exposure prophylaxis is given for 3 doses, either on 0, 7 or 21 day, or 0, 28, 56 days. Then it should be followed by a booster dose after 1 year, and again a booster dose should be given after every 5 years. Then comes the post-exposure prophylaxis. Here the patient should be given 5 to 6 doses. Once the patient comes, you know that how to proceed, observing the dog, then local treatment, you know that local treatment, and giving the post-exposure prophylaxis by here also human diploid tissue culture vaccines. This should be given on 0 day, 3rd day, 7th day, 14th day, 30th day and 90th day. 0, 3, 7, 14, 30th and you may give on 90th day also. This post-exposure prophylaxis or pre-exposure prophylaxis with non-oral tissue culture vaccine gives protection for 5 years. So during this period, if there is any dog attack, give only 1 or 2 doses. After the 5 years, you have to come and give the entire course of vaccination. Here the dose should be 0.5 ml and it should be intramuscularly or subcutaneously. For whatever the wound, dose and duration is one and the same. Okay. Though there is something called as less dose is sufficient for giving intradermally, but the results are not so good because accurate amount cannot be given intradermally. Then comes the passive immunization. This passive immunization, that is anti-rabies serum, is prepared either from the horses or from the human. Those that is prepared from the horses is called as equine rabies immunoglobulin. ERIG, equine rabies immunoglobulin. So it is usually another animal, automatically the chances for getting anaphylaxis are more. Then comes the human anti-rabies serum called as human rabies immunoglobulin HRIG. It is usually given for high risk individuals. That is here the dose should be usually 20 international units per kg, and half the dose should be given intramuscularly and half the dose should be given locally at the wound site. So HRIG, human rabies immunoglobulin, the dose is 20 international units per kg. Half the dose should be given at the wound site and the rest should be given in the gluteal region intramuscularly. Apart from that, antibiotics had to go give, tetanus, anti-tetanus serum should have to go proceed, TT active immunization should be done, other